So there was a question that came on the call that's kind of interesting about jujitsu and wanting to start jujitsu because it will give you a better awareness of your body and how to handle women and how to assert yourself in that sort of way. This is interesting because there's a long story to it. In any case, this is the Daily Awesome Podcast. I hope that you enjoy it. Please subscribe to our other podcast, the TSL Podcast or the Sexual Life Podcast. That's about dating, sex, and relationships, which is kind of where this is going, but there's so much to it, and there's some cool stories that go along with it. In any case, these podcasts are there to help you improve as a man and to be a part of a community. Really, they're a broadcast so that you can know more about the communities that we have, like the Austin Men's Development Community, which is a free board, which does have free board problems, but there are men. There are 70 men on there that are working their asses off to change their lives and make their lives better. There's also 900 that aren't. But that being said, this is a good center point where you can get involved with building the discussion. Like, I don't want to build more followers of my podcast. I want to build more people that I interact with personally online. I'm on that board every day. I'm on it a lot. There's a lot of badass shit there. And right now, we're actually on our Wednesday night call. It's the 12th of July. Very, very cool. I'm cutting weight for a jiu-jitsu tournament and I'm like nuts. So I'm a little bit out of it. And what we're talking about here is, as soon as this guy brought this up, I was like, man, this is the wrong reason to do jiu-jitsu, man. That's not the reason why I love it and all this sort of stuff. And then I thought, you know what? That was the reason. Not that exact one, but how I came into jiu-jitsu, this is actually an interesting thing, is my last name being Mayeda as well, which is the guy who founded it or the guy who taught the Gracies. But no connection. But the thing is that I met this guy, Scott Nelson. So my brother wrote a book on mixed martial arts and sociology towards mixed martial arts and violence and culture and so on. This was back in 2006. And I did a lot of the photography and some of the interviews for the book. That being said, I remember as being a professional pickup artist at the time, I posted on my blog about the book that I was in it or something that I had something to do with it. And Scott Nelson emails me and he said, hey, dude, who the fuck are you? Are you a fighter? You don't seem like a normal PUA guy. Because at the time, everything was anonymous. And I started hanging out with him. And I shit you not, in 1 year, I believe in 2009, I flew out to Las Vegas like over 20 times, and most of those times with Scott. And one of the reasons why I got involved in jiu-jitsu was because at that time, like 2007, 2008, 2009, when we were hanging out all the time and doing all this sort of shit, is I saw men being so Scotty, if you know who he is, he founded On the Mat. He now has another company that does some other things, but an amazing dude. And I don't want to say anything that gets him in any trouble, but he's a badass dude. He trained in Brazil. He's one of the original Americans to go down to Brazil and actually train. And so guys who trained in Brazil are very different than guys who trained in the US. A lot of the guys that I noticed in jiu-jitsu or in mixed martial arts that train in the US are really good. They're badass. They can beat the shit out of me. They're fucking tough. They own it in the ring and all this sort of thing. But in the rest of their lives, there's not this broad scope of other things that they're good at, which is like business and, making money and being good with women and so on. And sometimes they are, but a lot of times it's not the case. Guys that trained in Brazil, like Dean Lister, like Scott Nelson, like a lot of the guys that I knew from that era, they are. They're insanely good with women. And I've seen them get in a lot of fights, and it was just embarrassing, especially Scotty's like the same size as me. I think he's 5'9", I'm 5'8", and he's like, 170 or something like that. And he just beat the shit out of this 6'5" guy. And it was crazy. But the thing is I saw these guys and how they were with women. And after living in Brazil so long and being around Brazilian culture and having so much sex and being so good at noticing it and touching women and being aggressive with them and so on, that it just blew my mind. It was so amazing. It was so crazy. And I remember when I walked into my first gym, I called up Scott. I said, all right, I'm ready to train. And this wasn't until 2010. I was like, all right, man, I'm ready to train. I'm in Austin. Where can I go? And he said, go up to William Vandry's. It's one of the best schools there. My brother's trained there a bunch, and check it out. Now in Austin, there's a ton of schools. But at the time, there was really Vandry's and Helson's place, and then a bunch of small other places. Back then, 2010, there were a decent amount of places in 2010, but before then, man, even crazier. But so I went up to Will's place, and I expected that I would see all these badass guys, these well-rounded, full circle men. And that wasn't the case, man. It was very different, and they were badasses, and they beat the shit out of me, and I still remember it. And I was sore for days, and it was so frustrating to kind of get it down. But to find what I saw since then, jiu-jitsu has become something different. But I will say this is my interpretation of seduction, of how to be with women, how to be physical with women, how to go for sex, how to go for things that I want, and even in business, how to walk into different conversations. That does come from the jiu-jitsu world. That comes from being around Scotty, seeing him make deals, seeing him with women, seeing him with, high-end ring girls or whatever from the UFC, seeing him with all sorts of different people and represent himself, as well as not just him, but the other people that were involved in that old school jiu-jitsu community, of what a man goes for and what he is. And I think that's also what is so sad about masculinity today, is everybody's searching for this. Everybody's searching to assert themselves more. That's one thing that Scott never got, because Scott never needed any pickup advice, despite what he looked at, but he was interested in it all the time. And he went to the first super conference with Neil Strauss and Mystery and all those guys. And he was like, so, I don't know, I've been in Brazil this whole time. Are you supposed to wear makeup and, be all effeminate in the different ways that you guys are saying? I don't understand. I'm trying to learn. And they'd get really mad at him. And anyway, there's a lot of stories that come from all of that. But the thing is that he would always say stuff like, man, I don't get why it's so hard to fucking be a man. I don't get why it's so hard to know what it means to put something on the line, whether it's business, whether it's fighting, whether it's, risking something, whether it's, making a move on a woman. And see, we're all so afraid of that. We are all so afraid of putting ourselves out there, so that, because we might get hurt, we might get judged. It might be the wrong thing, which that's one of those things where we're more afraid of what society thinks of us than what our own definition of us is. Because when we have a solid definition of us, there's all the time society's going to get shit wrong about you. It's always going to get stuff wrong about you. It's not supposed to. It doesn't know you. It's detached from you. But where's your strength? Where's your fucking strength to own it, to show it, to be able to put yourself out there on the line and take a risk? And nobody's willing to do that these days. And it's such a bummer, man. And there's such a beautiful honor in that. It's not alpha. It's not whatever. It's man. It's you. It's what's in you. And why aren't you living it? In any case, this is the Daily Awesome Podcast. Enough of that. Do jiu-jitsu. It's badass. And the different communities that are a part of it are just so crazy and full of different life. But find men that you can fucking kick ass with, because the best way to not kick ass, the easiest thing that you can do to fuck up your life, is hang out with a bunch of people who don't give a fuck about themselves, honor themselves, or give a fuck about anybody else, and complain about a lot of shit. Take the bull by the horns, move it where you got to move it, and assert yourself. Own that shit. That's what our podcast is about. If you like it, subscribe to it, share it, spread the word, but join our communities. That is one of the most important things. The Austin Men's Development community is free. Like I said, man, there's a lot of guys busting ass on there. Of course, it's a big free board, and there's a lot of public, kind of like traffic that comes in and out of it, even though it is private. But man, it's a great place to start. Download our PDFs. They're for free. They cost you an email address, and they work. If you're having trouble with them, post about it on the board. And if, hey, you want to take it to the next level, sign up for our programs. They're legit. They're some of the best that you're going to be a part of. And we're on a call right now where that's happening. Wednesday night, baby, band, 9:30 p.m. Austin time. That means all the MD Excellence dudes are coming on. We've just been talking to the TSL dudes now. It's a good thing, man. Be a part of a great thing. Be a part of excellence. Why not? Why fucking not? Anyway, all right. I'm out of here. You guys have a great day. I can't wait till I'm done with this weight cut. In any case, talk to you soon.